Hi there folks, and welcome to the International Broadcasting Convention here in Amsterdam. My name is Ahron Young, the CEO and the founder of Ticker News. We have a big show to get through, of course, a lot to talk about here at IBC. First though, the top stories this hour.
May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.
There he is, the King. For the first time in history, the proclamation of a monarch will be televised as King Charles III now ascends to the throne. Paying tribute, bells ring out and a gun salute across the UK and around the globe as the world now pays tribute to Queen Elizabeth. A smaller monarchy, that's the message as the new king charts a course for a modern palace. And don't bring Meghan, the new king's directive to his son Harry on the day the family gathered at Balmoral. In other news, here we are, the International Broadcasting Convention is live, and we have a sneak peek, a behind-the-scenes look at all the action right here on Ticker News. It is so good to be with you. I'm Ahron Young. Our top story, King Charles III will formally be proclaimed as the UK's new monarch at a ceremony that's taken place in London. It will be the first time in history the ancient ceremony will be televised, the Accession Council assembling without Charles at the state apartments of St James's Palace in London. The council is made up of senior cabinet ministers, judges, as well as leaders of the Church of England. Following that, Charles will then hold his first Privy Council as king. It's expected he will make a personal declaration about the death of the Queen and take an oath to preserve the Church of Scotland. A public proclamation announcing him as the new sovereign, made with a fanfare of trumpeters. The new king has paid tribute to his late mother in a speech to the British people. Meanwhile, the US President Joe Biden says he will travel to London for the Queen's funeral after telling British embassy staff that Americans would mourn with their cousins across the Atlantic. Now, throughout all of this, there's been somewhat of a sideshow also happening. It turns out King Charles asked Prince Harry not to bring his wife, Meghan Markle, to see the Queen before she died. As we mentioned at the start of the program, we're broadcasting live from the International Broadcasting Convention here in Amsterdam. Let's talk about the future of media on this broadcast as well, streaming around the world. For more, let's bring in the man who's got it all, Edward Tischler. Thank you so much, of course, from Gravity Media. Talk to us about what you've seen so far here.
What we've seen here so far, I think what we've seen, if you listen to anybody, most people are talking about remote. Everybody wants to talk about remote, and it's kind of like this subject that's been within the industry for a long, long time, but people seem to be coming now to IBC to really see, I guess maybe over COVID, you know, what now is possible. We're on the same journey as everybody else, so we've had a real sort of strong focus on sort of remote workflows. And also, in truth, it's not just a platform to come and see the technologies and the advances, just to catch up with all of those people and all of those clients and all of those relationships and everything that has been a little bit more challenging over the last couple of years. So for us, it's had huge value in terms of that.
It feels like, you know, year by year when people come to these sorts of events, NAB and IBC, not a huge amount of change. It's a little bit of a leap forward, but after 3 years, how much has changed?
Yeah, loads, right? You're absolutely right. I was speaking to somebody about that on our stand the other day. 3 years ago, you're coming as like IPs kind of come in and everybody's talking about standards and interoperability and the channel, things like that. And it really dominated like that. And I think people were holding back from their investments for that reason. You come here 3 years, all of that conversation is lost. You know, it's completely gone. And now there's like this, I guess there's like this attitude from suppliers and facilities companies and production companies like ourselves that like let's go, let's be brave with that, and you can actually make those technology choices in confidence. Huge steps forwards in terms of that development.
Everyone talking about the cloud and IP.
Everyone's talking about the cloud and IP. Us as well, yeah, definitely, definitely.
How does that impact a business like you, right? Obviously, we see a lot of trucks and a lot of facilities that are at sporting venues. Coming up will be the death of the Queen and obviously the funeral that happens there as well. Has much changed in that regard about how we get cameras and feeds from an actual area where the news is happening, where sport is happening, back to headquarters?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the big message that we're bringing to IBC, so we're opening a new state-of-the-art production facility in the west of London. That's probably our biggest announcement that we'll be making. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's a massive statement piece for us, and really sort of will hopefully endorse us as a sort of a market leader in that world. And born out of that amazing concept for us is all of the research that we've had to do into cloud economics and IP technologies, and what are the right technology choices, and how can we best use remote workflow for leveraging costs for federation. You know, all of those challenges that everybody faced. But that's been a really, really interesting journey. We did loads of proof of concepts with people like AWS and other federations, sort of looking in, you know, virtualized production and how best can we leverage the cloud around that. Everybody knows there's a real question around cloud economics and does that stack up. It's getting there, but not quite yet. So for us, it's kind of in our production center. You'll look at very smart sort of IP encode decode solutions, but we'll have a flavor of cloud in there, and I think that's probably where it is. Do you know what I mean? You know, there's possibly a little bit of time to come. It works technically. It's the economic side of it, really.
You're the managing director of the European side for Gravity, right?
Yeah.
There's been this small thing called Brexit, which has been happening throughout that as well. Has that had much of an impact for you? You talk about a huge new production centre in London. Once upon a time, that would have been your European headquarters. What happens for you?
No, you're absolutely right. Whether it's Brexit or just the global sort of cost of living, inflationary challenges that we all face anyway, federations and broadcasters alike, they want us to come at the cost base. We need to have a much longer term vision in terms of how can we mitigate ourselves against third party costs, and a huge one of that is freight, flights for crew, things like that. Brexit's just compounded that on top.
Have you noticed that because of COVID, because of freight costs, that a lot of networks that would once upon a time send crew to places are now just doing it out of home base?
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. A little bit of a return now, but certainly not in the scale that we've seen previously. Definitely not. One of the models we're going to do next year was an event that we used to send 162 people to. By the time we implement that properly around our production centre, we get that down to 64 people. Yeah, wow. You know, and huge differences. And
I don't expect you to go into commercial details, of course, but I keep witnessing as a journalist the giant increase in cost in sports rights.
Yeah.
If you want to have the EPL, if you want to have the AFL in Australia, the Olympic rights, the price just keeps going up. But the advertising dollar is getting harder and harder to find, and therefore networks are looking for efficiencies.
Yeah.
I would imagine they turn to production and say, can you try and bring the cost down? What's that like for you when your costs are going up?
Yeah. Well, you have to be careful because otherwise you become the squeezed middle, don't you?
Yeah,
you know, you're absolutely
How do you prevent that?
For those reasons, you can only control what you can control. You know, you can't control the uncontrollables, but what you can do is reduce your exposure to them. So any exposure that you have to these third-party costs, get them right down, and you do that by bringing them into your own premises, like a production centre, and that's an environment where you can control costs. Much harder to control it outside of that. So migrating stuff into your own overheads.
All right. So the production centre, what do you do in there? Is it a big studio complex, or is it behind the scenes?
It's the full suite.
Right. So everything. The galleries, bring it all in.
Galleries. We're going to have multi-suites. We're going to have additional studio space. We're going to have 28 offline suites. We're going to have grading suites.
Wow.
So everything from.
What's it like designing that when technology is changing so fast?
Yeah, really tough. Really.
Because
really tough.
quite often you see a 5-year project.
Yeah.
And that's technology from 5 years ago now.
No, you do. And the changing formats. That's why we've tried to come up with a solution that's as agnostic to change as is possible. You're never going to quite get there, of course you're not, but there's cleverness in the design, and that is why we've stayed natively IP throughout. We've got new HD HDR throughout, and that should buy you time in terms of advancement. You'd like to think that if you are agnostic to format changes all the way to sort of UHD and HDR, that should buy you 5 or 6 years, right, in theory. I don't think there'll be any mad rush for 8K and things like that to come through, really. So hopefully we've captured that.
Hopefully not for news. I'll need a facelift. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that is Ticker News for now. You can catch more at tickernews.com. Ahron Young. I hope to see you soon.